Hey guys, more rambling. Um, this one I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind for quite a while. Pretty much ever since I started playing TF2. And that is team cohesion. Um, Very nuanced topic, but I feel like it doesn't get valued as much as it should. And when people are struggling to, win at the game, um, be it, HL, sixes, hell, even in casual itself, just like playing a stupid pub. Um, Team cohesion is like very important, and it can make or break a lot of situations, even if your entire team is like incredibly competent and like skilled on their own individual right. Um, I've seen a lot of teams that have like really good players on them, and they just seem to can't get the consistency that they should have. Um, there's a couple factors that can go into that. It can just be like consistency from the good players, or it could just be that like the mental isn't great, um, or it could just be that like regardless of consistency being great, regardless of the mental being great, um, it's just how they play the game and how that synergy exists within such a nuanced game such as TF2. Um, how that ends up actually reflecting in practice could just be completely unpredictable, and that's why it's good to just you know try out just so many different people if you are making a team, or if you're trying out for teams, just trying out for a whole plethora of teams, and seeing what really fits with you, and the way that you play the game and the way that you view the game. But I see that a majority of the time it's not really like a clash of play styles. It's way more a clash of mentality. If anything, I think is the biggest I've seen that at least causes what should rather be decent teams to end up losing. And that's a whole other discussion about, mentality, I guess. But we're not really talking about mental today. I really just wanted to talk about, like, you can have a whole plethora of mentalities, but only, like, certain mentalities will mesh, right? Even if they're good mindsets, even if they're healthy mindsets, even if, like, mental and expectations is like healthy, like all around, you can still have clashing mentalities. Um, and I think the biggest example of clashing mentalities is going to be like confidence factor. So, like, how confident are you in the team, and like what are the standards of the team that you're playing on, right? Like, should your team be fucking hard rolling the entirety of the division, or should your team, be doing just barely on the cusp of doing all right? Like, what is the expected prediction for your team's performance, and how does everybody on your team like think about it? Um, and I guess when it comes to that mentality, like, everyone has to be on the same page to have like peak performance, right? Regardless of your team's skill level, right? Like, your team could be bottom of the division, but as long as you guys have like synchronized mentality of like what to expect, the majority of the time you guys are going to like perform at peak performance. And if you're consistently peak performance because of a consistent mentality between players on the team, that team cohesion will like legit cause you to just upset the most like random teams that like should not be losing to you. Um, and I've seen examples of that time and time again, both from the underdogs in that situation and from the people, that should be doing better, getting shit on by a team that just has a really solid team cohesion. Um, and I guess I'll go deeper into like examples of clashing mentalities, and how to avoid them, and like what to do about them. Because honestly, with how small this game's community is in the competitive scene, like, you can't. It's not really viable to just like kill every team you make and be like, oh well, the team cohesion isn't there. Gotta fucking kill the team, you know. The usually a lack of team cohesion is due to like there's like one problem player that can't like figure out how to like synergize with everybody else, and that can like either ruin the vibes or it can completely just again ruin the cohesion that's there and how people want to play the game essentially. I guess in my experience, I haven't really solved the issue myself. I feel like as I coach people and as I like attempt to make my own teams or play on other people's teams, I don't really have an answer to the problem. So I guess I'm just kind of like talking to myself here through it of my own thoughts. I guess the best way to start is to like think about it in the most simplest of terms, and put it in the most like casual setting. So like I guess like a casual match, right? Like what determines like the very basics of like who wins and loses in a casual match? And I think the easiest determiner of that is just like composition, right? Like do you have a medic that has Uber? Do you have like power classes, right? Are people actually like just not AFK in spawn the majority of the time when it comes to pubs? You know? Yeah. So when it comes to like the most like casual setting, that's the basic forefront. It's like what is the composition of your team, and is it consistent with people's expectations of what they want to play, right? Because people are gonna they're gonna do a lot better if they're playing what they want to play. And we can bring that back to sixes and be like, oh, okay, well, make sure you have the right people in the right roles, right? First and foremost, right? You have the right people in the right classes, and waging out the risk and reward of putting someone on a role that they might not like, but they're gonna do, statistically better on. And is that statistic, is that statistically better class going to lift the weight that is them not enjoying the role, right? Like if they really don't enjoy the role, it might be better to just put them on a class that they are worse on. It's just like as a team leader, it's like how do you want to call that shot? And thinking about those things outside of like team composition. There's going to be who is communicating with who and how well are they going to be doing it from their respective roles, right? Like, do the flank players that you have, are they like talkative? Do they talk to each other? Who is kind of like the shot caller in that instance, specifically for that cooperation? Does your pocket scout and your medic get along well? Does your demo and your soldiers get along well, and do they trust each other in the comms? And just things like that. Sociability just between like specific players. I think honing in on that point, the most successful teams that I've seen, the most consistent teams that I've seen, teams that like feel unbeatable, not just because like the individual players they have, but again, just the relationship those players have with each other. It's always going to be like a case where no matter like what is happening like in the game state, they know how to constantly like be communicating with each other. They're like always like talking about things that are like relevant, They're not getting sidetracked by like, again, different mentalities. They're not getting sidetracked by like having to like micro specific approaches or like beliefs. Like I've played on teams and I've seen like teams play where they're struggling during like a scrim or a match, and they're like arguing about like the micro specifics of like the philosophy of a play, right? Rather than talking about what the next play is. And against like mentally consistent teams, they don't have to have that like discussion. even if it's not an argument, again, like I said, this even applies to teams that have good mentality and you know, healthy mindsets, where even like in a healthy manner, they're like they have to have these discussions about like, are they on the same page? But the teams that are most powerful, they're already on the same page, just like naturally, um, and, and that's how it is. And what's most interesting of all is that I don't think time played together actually fixes the issue, because I've seen people that have played season upon season upon season with each other, but that sort of cohesion is just non-existent. Um, right? I've seen plenty of examples of that, and again, it kind of like keeps me in the dark about it because I don't have a lot of examples of people overcoming the issue, right? I actually have zero. It's not that I don't have many examples. I have actually zero examples personally for myself of, you know, teams that lack cohesion and then magically they obtain cohesion. But that's mainly probably because, you know, majority of the teams I'm going to be socially disconnected from, and I don't know the full story of what's going on. So maybe somebody out there has had that experience. I've definitely seen teams that have like been doing really bad at the start of the season, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through the season, they go from being a pushover to being, you know, what is essentially unbeatable. Um, just out of nowhere, honestly. The roster stays the same, the roles stay the same. They have like maybe like 2 or 3 like demo reviews from like better players, and then like all of a sudden they're just like unbeatable. And that doesn't really ever happen, so it's very rare. Um, but it's possible, and I don't know how that happens, honestly. Like I don't know what changes, and again, I don't know if maybe the team cohesion was already there, and there was just some like foundational flaw they had in their game plans that was just messing things up. That's one thing that I feel like sucks is like this is something that I think the only reason that I haven't really talked about it much, like at least to myself too, is that like I really don't like even know where to start with an answer. All I can think about is like composition, but I just gave an example that I'm thinking of where like composition wasn't the issue, right? Maybe the issue with team cohesion is just like it's going to be something that is the most difficult to change, right? And the most difficult thing I think it is for people to change when it comes to competing, when it comes to learning a skill, is being humble enough to think about the skills that you think you've already perfected, right? To think in a way where the possibility of your strongest skill could actually be the skill that is behind your mistakes, right? Like, let's say that, like, you're an aimer, right? You pride yourself in your aim. You think you have, like, God's greatest mechanics. You hit all your shots, blah, 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 right? And you think to yourself, there's no possible way the reason my team is struggling is because I can't hit my shots. And I feel like you have to, in this case, you have to open yourself up to the possibility, right? You have to open yourself up to the possibility because naturally what's going to happen is that teams are going to play to their strong suits. Individuals definitely are going to play to their strong suits, right? And because of that, they start, when they start losing, they start thinking of things that aren't their strong suit. They start trying to improve upon things that aren't really their strong suit, or really even their playstyle to begin with. And for that, they don't really improve their capability. All they do is just, you know, pinch up the holes that weren't really holes in the grand scheme of things, right? Because maybe those holes were already filled up by the capabilities of their teammates. And so you have to think of the possibility that maybe the issue does lie in my strong suit. Maybe the shots that I rarely miss are actually game-defining shots that I'm missing, right? And maybe if I think about those game-defining shots, right? Okay, what shots matter and what honestly don't matter that much, right? And focus on the ones that matter, right? Focus that mental energy towards, what matters. And then it could be anything, right? It could be your dodge skill, your rocket jumping skill, your ability to, call specific plays and be a good main caller, your ability to know timings, and all the sorts of different micro skills there is to have in TF2, um, and be like, maybe my strong suit is the issue. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on my strong suit and see where that takes me. And in the very rare occasion where an entire team has that mentality, I think you could take a team that has very low cohesion and make it a team that has very high cohesion, because all of a sudden, once everyone's playing to their strengths and is critical of that strength, all of a sudden the entire team improves together and is guaranteed that even in times of struggling, even in times of, not guaranteed winning, you're going to improve as a team in your own, unique manners. And that, again, will fill the weak spots, the holes of other players in the team. I think that's truly what team cohesion is, at least right now, what I think. Just thinking about it. I could, as, as I become older and wiser, I'll have different opinions about it. But right now, I feel like that's my opinion. And, I don't really have, any experimentation with that mindset to really, have an opinion on it so far, but, I think I'm gonna try that and teach people that mentality, just to see where it takes them, just to see, is that what it takes to take a struggling team and to make it a good team. Well, besides that, I guess I'll go into what it takes to have that mentality, and what it means to be humble. It's actually incredibly hard to be humble in that way, especially in a game where it's very easy for other people to be toxic towards you, and one of the easiest ways to combat toxicity is to just be incredibly egoed, and to have a really large self-esteem. Which is kind of like a paradox in and of itself, right? Yeah, you have to be confident, but you have to be confident in a way that doesn't, degrade your mentality. And that's very hard to do. It's a very hard balance to reach. So it's kind of like a two-step program of, reaching that balance in your mentality, and then actually applying the foundation of, okay, how do I improve my strengths, Anyways, that's all I'm going to talk about today. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will be seeing you guys later.